Maya stood at the edge of the pier, the cold wind biting at her cheeks as she stared out at the dark, churning waves. The ocean had always been her solace, a place where she could think, feel, and sometimes just exist. But tonight it felt different. Tonight, the waves seemed to echo the turmoil in her heart. It had been 6 months since Adrian left. 6 months since he packed his bags, kissed her forehead, and said, "I need to figure out who I am without us." At first, Maya had been angry. How could he just walk away? How could he leave her to pick up the pieces of a life they'd built together? But as the weeks turned into months, her anger had given way to something else, a quiet, aching sadness that settled deep in her chest. She wrapped her coat tighter around herself and sat down on the edge of the pier, her legs dangling over the water. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a silvery glow over the ocean. She closed her eyes and let the sound of the waves fill her ears, trying to drown out the thoughts that had been haunting her. Who am I without him? Adrian had always been the dreamer. He was the one who talked about traveling the world, writing a novel, and living a life less ordinary. Maya, on the other hand, was the planner. She liked routines, stability, and knowing what came next. For years, they had balanced each other out. His spontaneity tempered her caution, and her practicality grounded his dreams. But somewhere along the way, the balance had shifted. Adrian had started to feel trapped, suffocated by the life they'd built. He wanted more adventure, more freedom, more life. And Maya? She just wanted him. The night he left, they had argued. "You're holding me back," he had said, his voice trembling with frustration. "And you're running away," she had shot back, tears streaming down her face. It wasn't the first time they'd fought, but it was the first time they both knew there was no coming back from it. Now, sitting on the pier, Maya pulled out her phone and opened the Notes app. She had started writing letters to Adrian, letters she would never send. They were her way of processing her emotions, of trying to make sense of everything that had happened. She began to type, "Dear Adrian, I've been thinking a lot about us, about who we were and who we've become. I used to think that love was enough, that if we loved each other, we could overcome anything. But I was wrong. Love isn't enough if two people want different things. And that's okay. It doesn't mean we failed. It just means we're human." She paused, her fingers hovering over the screen. The words felt raw, vulnerable, but they also felt true. "I'm learning to let go," she continued. "Not just of you, but of the idea of us. It's hard. Some days it feels impossible. But I'm trying. And maybe that's enough for now." She saved the note and tucked her phone back into her pocket. The wind had picked up, and the waves crashed against the pier with a rhythmic intensity. For the first time in months, Maya felt a sense of clarity. A few weeks later, Maya ran into Adrian at a coffee shop. She was standing in line, scrolling through her phone, when she heard his voice. "Maya?" She looked up, her heart skipping a beat. There he was, standing a few feet away, his hair a little longer, his face a little thinner. "Hi," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Hi," he replied, his eyes searching hers. They stood there for a moment, the silence between them heavy with unspoken words. Finally, Adrian spoke. "Can we talk?" Maya nodded, and they found a quiet corner of the cafe. They sat across from each other, the air thick with tension. "How have you been?" Adrian asked, his voice soft. "I've been okay," Maya said. "It's been hard, but I'm getting there. How about you?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I've been better. I've been worse. I've been figuring things out." Maya nodded, her throat tight. "I'm glad." There was another pause, and then Adrian said, "I'm sorry, Maya, for everything." Tears welled up in her eyes, but she blinked them away. "I'm sorry, too." They sat there for a while, talking about everything and nothing. They laughed, they cried, and for a moment it felt like old times. But there was a distance between them now, a space that couldn't be bridged. When it was time to leave, Adrian reached for her hand. "Take care of yourself, Maya," he said, his voice breaking. "You too," she replied, squeezing his hand before letting go. As she walked home, Maya felt a strange sense of peace. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she felt ready to face it, not as half of a whole, but as herself. The weight of letting go was heavy, but it was also freeing. And sometimes that was enough.